Alright, welcome to my first Mirrodin Besieged release event. As normal, I will start by sorting by rarity, since this format looks to be, at least, dominated by bombs, and it looks like I've got a few. Black Sun, Zenith, Horde Smelter Dragon both seem pretty good. Cerebral Eruption, not my favorite card. It's a little bit sometimes it's just gonna win you the game on its own, and other times it's gonna whiff or hit like a spell bomb and not do what you want, and you waste your turn. But still powerful enough that you probably don't cut it if you're gonna play red. What else do we have? This is probably okay. I'm not 100% sure about it. I mean, putting it on like a Horde Smelter Dragon seems pretty good. Although, if you untap with Horde Smelter Dragon, you're probably gonna be okay. Your Propagator. I don't know if it's a bomb, but it's usually gonna make the cut. This guy, it's probably okay as a 2-drop. Turn off equipment or something like a Propagator or whatever off. So yeah, so I think my strategy for these release events is basically I'm going to be playing Horde Smelter Dragon and almost for sure Black Sun Zenith, and I just build my deck around that. So I think basically I want to look at what my artifacts are, and basically on color cards with my bombs, and then go from there. I'm gonna sort of ignore like playable cards, but like things like, for example, like in a regular format, I guess you would start by looking at different colors and figure out where you have the most overall playables, as well as a few bombs maybe. But because there's so many artifacts and there's so many different builds, I think you can end up with, to simplify the process here. I think when I'm, at least for the initial build, I'm going to ignore things like even like Sky Hunter and Partisan. I mean, these are solid cards that might sort of normally pull you towards a color, but I think in this format, basically bombs are going to pull me towards colors. Look at the artifacts to fill things up, and then fill up the rest from there. So I'm going to look at, these are my bombs. I'm going to look to build around them. First, I'll look at maybe some high quality on color cards like Spread the Sickness. And even things like Bleak Coven Vampires, I'm going to just leave on the side for now, even though they're perfectly playable. And same thing with things like Ogre Resistor. Sure, it's definitely playable, but it's not going to define my deck. So look, right now I'm looking for top of the line cards and very solid removal into the core, Shatter, and Embersmith fall into that category. And like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to play Resistor. I probably will if I'm playing red, but it's not going to define my deck here. So the next thing I'm going to do is look at the artifacts. Flare Husk is certainly playable, if not exciting. Contagion Clasp is almost for sure going to make the deck. Calling Days is something interesting. It works well with the Propagator, potentially. X-Ring Invoker is also playable. It's something I might want to actually just try to see how good it is, seeing as it's a rare. I'm going to put it in there. I mean, it may not make the cut in the end, but definitely at least worth considering and worth trying out to see how often the ability affects the table, although it is pretty fragile, so you can't really rely on it shutting something off for good. Sphere of the Sun's probably going to make it, especially, like, I don't see any mirrors here. Mirrors are going to be way, like, regular mana mirrors at least, are going to be way rarer in the new format, but Sphere of the Suns helps replace that. So does there's the Infect mirror as well, to some extent. And this guy's solid. If I were to end up blue, it doesn't look very likely that I'm going to end up playing blue. Well, with Tangle Cord, definitely playable. Seems like I'm going to be a little bit short on defensive creatures. I'll put one in the deck for now. See where we go from there. Heavy Arbalist is a card I like a lot in Sealed. Moriok Replica. It's a black card. Mirror Galvanizer, normally nice. Goes well with Arbalist, although it just doesn't look like I have any. I guess it goes well with the Propagator, so maybe I consider it, but I'll put that in a little pile here so I can remember that I, at least have that interaction. Piston Sledge is okay, but I think it's more of a draft card. It might make the deck, but like I think I'm looking to be just more defensive and rely on my bombs to win the game rather than random aggressive hands. But I mean, it's certainly playable. I'll just keep it in mind. Tumble Magnet is for sure something to think about. And Dross Reaper is definitely playable. Even without the black mana, it's playable. But just like, even though I'm not really willing to put in cards like Bleakhoven Vampire right off the bat, I'm doing the artifacts first. It's just like there's not gonna be, like, for a mediocre colored card, there's not gonna be much difference between the mediocre colored card and a mediocre to good, or mediocre to good colored card and a mediocre to good artifact. So I'd rather just start with filling my deck with artifacts, and then I can make the adjustments later on. Like I might change this for a Bleakhoven Vampires if I have enough. If I have enough artifacts in the deck, or to get Metalcraft reliably, or whatever. And Shredder Hardness is playable, but not the most exciting. I might very likely to have better options. Both these Striders are certainly fine cards. That can fill out the curve. And the Replica's red. It's worth considering, I guess, at some point. But in Sealed, it's just not. It's not going to be the most exciting card. It's a little bit fragile to be sort of like an auto put in the pile. And this would be fine in green, but it does not look like I'm playing green. Trigon Infestation is something I might want to consider, especially given that I have the Contagion Clasp. But that's something to consider later on. I don't know if it's an auto include. Okay, so that looks to be it for the artifacts. I still, even so, like right now, I still have room for more cards. I haven't even looked at other colors. There might be something worth bringing in, but let's take a look at red cards that I wouldn't mind bringing in, like Blister 6 Shaman. For sure is something I'd be happy to play, as well as the Ogre Resistor. Crush is not a card I'm super excited to main deck. I think it's okay to include one in Sealed if I'm short on artifact removal in general. But I do have the Into the Core and the Shatter. And those take care of creatures too. So Crush is a little bit more limited. It's more like bring in out of the sideboard if I see a lot of equipment or other troublesome artifacts that are not creatures. And Rally the Forces is just really not something I'm going to often play in Seal. I don't think, unless you don't open bombs, I don't think I'm going to want to play too many aggressive decks. A Concussive Bolt I mean, it could just flat out win you the game, but I mean, it's a little bit less reliable than something like Horde Smelter Dragon. I guess it depends on what my final build's going to look like. It's something to consider, but not at the price of something a little bit that's going to impact the game a little bit more consistently. Berserkers is certainly something to consider, but I'm probably going to have more than enough at the 4-drop here. It already looks like. And out of black, if there's anything else I want to bring in, there's a Bleak Coven Vampires, which I'd be happy to play. It looks like I have the opening in my curve as well. Other than that, nothing too exciting, but between Bleak Coven Vampires, Spread the Sickness, and Black Sun Zenith, I'm probably going to want to play black anyways, unless there's something really exciting out of the uncommons in the other colors. Like green just doesn't have anything that would pull me away from my bombs in black or red. Nothing's going to pull me away from red. I'm going to be playing Horde Smelter Dragon, especially with the solid support in that color. Take a quick look at blue. Serpent's fine. This is a card that I think is pretty versatile. Nice. It could be a nice tempo boost. Also, surprise. Take them off of Metalcraft mid-combat. If you're way behind trying to get to your bombs, it can buy you some time. I think and it's because it's only with the 1 mana symbol. It actually, I think, might be worth splashing as Vivisection. There's not much card advantage in the format, and or in terms of at least in terms of straight card draw, there's not much. And this might be worth getting in there if it looks like I have enough fodder for it. I may not have enough fodder for it. We'll have to see. I mean, still Sabotage is not going to pull me away. From my color. It's definitely playable if I'm in blue, but not going to pull me away. Turn the Tide. Treasure Mage is an interesting card, although I have absolutely nothing to fetch with it, so that's unfortunate. That's a little expensive, although I think counters are just fine in sealed. This might actually make the cut sometimes. I'd just rather play the Mirrodin. Like, the Proliferate is not going to be enough of a bonus for the extra mana, or 2 if you have Metalcraft over the Scar's counterspell. Anatomist is fine in sealed, but not really an exciting splash. And like between these 3 cards, I definitely prefer my black. In white, there's some interesting options here. I'm mostly looking for splashes. Even though it looks like I might have a solid white core, splashes, splash-worthy cards might be Divine Offering, Revoke Existence. But Mirrorsmith is solid. Sky Hunter is generally going to be a solid card. And, I'm sure I have enough equipment to support Shikari, and all these cards are solid. It's just, are they that much better than just random artifacts? Probably not. And at the top end, I just don't have any bombs. Mirrorsmith is close to a bomb sometimes, especially considering, I have decent synergy with the Galvanizer, I suppose. But to run white for Mirrorsmith, I think is probably not as much of a payoff as to run black for a Black Sun Zenith. So I think in the white, I'm just mostly looking at the splashables, like Divine Offering, Revoke Existence. And at first glance, I don't know that I would necessarily splash them here, just because I do have a few artifact removal spells in red already. Whereas I'm a little bit short on, direct removal for a creature. I only have the Spread the Sickness, and then I suppose I have the the mass removal. So if I was going to make a splash, it would be for more like an arrest than, I think, for one of these guys. Okay, so I think we've got a good feel here. I've got 4.5 minutes to finalize my decisions. So it's just a matter of just make sure there's nothing I'm missing here. I don't think so. So it's a matter of deciding whether I want to splash blue for the guys that are in the vivisection, or to stay a bit more consistent, and if there's any of these cards that want to make the cut. Okay, so just take another look at my curve here. I'm going to do a little bit of sorting. Potential cuts I'll put on the side here. Even Revoker is a potential cut. I mean, my 4 mana cards are pretty interchangeable. I could take one out. Okay, so now I would like to play Vivisection. I just don't have much fodder for it. So drawing 3 is a lot less good when you're sacrificing a Pierce Strider. I mean, Revoker, maybe once in a while, Shaman, however you want to say it, once in a while. But other than that, there's really nothing I'm interested in sacrificing to draw 3 cards. I mean, it's still fine to sacrifice one of these guys. I guess if they arrest something of yours, sure. But I just don't think it's going to be worth the splash. And I guess just splashing the geyser, I'm not so sure about. I think maybe I just stay a bit more consistent and just play straight red-black here. Not really interested in the random aggressive equipment here. And I don't have much to sacrifice other than the propagator tokens to move it around. So the last thing I might want to consider is this Trigon of Infestation, which works reasonably well with the Proliferate. Actually would work well with a Vivisection splash to some extent as well. Don't have enough. I might side in a Culling Dace against some. My mic there. I think I'm going to go with the Trigon of Infestation over a random 4-drop. I'm going to try this out. I can reevaluate during the sideboards. 10-7 seems fine. Even 9-8. So many artifacts. I just want to be able to cast my double colored. So I'm going to submit this and reevaluate during sideboarding. Alright, so I'm trying something new here. I'm going to record the replays rather than the entire matches. Get to skip over the random pauses and me thinking, my opponent thinking, all that, and really condense things. We can pause at really interesting points where there's actually some discussion to make, and I guess you'll let me know how you like it. It also keeps the file sizes a lot smaller, I think, so it'll make posting these videos a lot easier for me. Okay, so let's skip right ahead. So I kept my 7. I was on the draw. Bit slow, but I mean, I have the wall to slow things down. I'm on the draw, and if I get that 3rd land, I have some action. So we'll see how that pans out. I draw the Revoker. Maybe I'm skipping ahead too quickly. Well, now let's skip ahead a little bit faster. He plays Gold Mirror, so I decide to play Revoker, and name the Gold Mirror to hopefully stunt his acceleration. He puts an end to that and shamans it. So here I drew my land, thankfully. So there's the choice of playing the Tangle Cord, the Propagator, or the Galvanizer. I figure that playing one of the 3-drops is a little bit more efficient on my mana than playing the Wall of Tangle Cord, even though that blocks both his guys. Galvanizer blocks his Gold Mirror, and maybe he doesn't want to trade, but probably does. He'll probably swing with the Shaman. I drew into the core. So he skipped right ahead there, but I drew another land, decided to play out the Resistor rather than get the Propagator going, just because it does a better job of blocking most of his guys other than the Spin Engine. Interesting to note, I have the Into the Core. I could get rid of these 2 guys, but I'm sort of hoping that he plays another artifact. The Spin Engine is a bit of a problem, so I'd ideally want to Into the Core the Spin Engine plus something else. We'll see how that goes. So here he's playing out a big guy with Battle Cry, which I'm hoping I can trade my Resistor for. This does have to attack every turn. So here I find a land, and I think the play is just get the Propagator out so I can start making 2/2 tokens and the Wall of Tangle Cord to potentially block some more guys and take less damage. Okay, so it's his turn. Now the plan here is to hopefully block the Ringleader with the Resistor trade and then stabilize with the Propagator. Unfortunately, he has a Flesh Algae, which and he chooses his Gold Mirror, which I guess suggests he may have an equipment coming for the Cavalier, or he has lots of equipment in his deck. But it's pretty unfortunate because now I can't really kill the Spin Engine and Into the Core without targeting one of my own guys too. And I think I make a bit of a mistake here, because keeping the Cavalier it sort of says he has equipment in his deck, and so I should plan to be using Into the Core on that equipment plus the Spin Engine, and I make a little bit of a misblock here, as you'll see. So he doesn't want the Spin Engine blocked by the Wall of Tangle Cord, although I think it's pretty obvious I'm blocking the Ringleader with the Wall of Tangle Cord. And if I was going to block the Spin Engine at all, it would be with one of these guys. And that's what I do. But what I should have done is blocked the Shaman with one of my guys. So I choose here, let's skip ahead to the blocking. I choose to trade my Galvanizer for the Spin Engine and the Wall of Tangle Cord. And I want to keep the Propagator because these guys are X1s, and I can sort of stabilize maybe on the Propagator. A lot better than I can stabilize on the Galvanizer. Galvanizer has little to no value in the deck without Propagator, other than just being a 2/2. So I think Propagator is definitely the most valuable card, so that's why I keep it. But now, the problem here is, after blocking this, even if he plays another artifact, like an equipment, I cannot Into the Core without targeting one of my own guys. And this Trigon is a little bit clunky, since I want to be making tokens. So now we'll see what I draw. I draw a land, which doesn't really change things. I guess I could play a Trigon and make a token rather than making a Propagator, and I think that's actually the better choice, because that way the next turn I can make one of each token, and so I make a mistake here as well, since I just pass the turn. I do have Into the Core up, but I mean, he has 0 artifacts in play. And he just bashes. Oh, I went too far, but you'll see what happens. Oh, went way too fast, but I drew an Embersmith, played it, planning on killing the Goblin Cavalier the next turn with the Embersmith off the Infestant, but what happens is that he plays, so I make another mistake. He plays the Mirrodin Claw that he drew off the top, I suppose, and equips it to his Cavalier, and I forget Trample. And instead of, what I do is I make, I block the Cavalier, make a token for the next turn, but forget Trample. And so he tramples over me for the win. I could have Into the Cord his equipment plus my mirror token. Would have been the end of my mirrors, but it also would not have been the end of the game. So I guess I should have done that. I was probably going to lose this anyways. I spoke to him after the game. He had a Galvanic Blast in the hand as his last card, so I probably wasn't going to win this anyway, but did make a few mistakes. Okay. And mistakes are going to happen in a new format. Unfortunately, I made a mistake with an old card that I should know better, and that it has Trample. Okay, so let's try not to skip ahead too much here. These replays are a little bit finicky. Okay, so this is obviously, I have to mulligan this. As nice as some of the cards are, I just don't have the land, so I mulligan, and I keep... This one is a pretty decent hand. It has the Black Sun Zenith, which is pretty amazing against them. And these are not doing much now, but at some point they may. And you know, I definitely have the means of stabilizing with this Zenith. So skip ahead a little bit. He plays some guys. I just play out this guy rather than the Arbalest. I think it's more likely I'll be able to equip this guy with some value than this, since this costs 4 mana. So like if I draw a 2-drop, I can just equip it right away. Slow it down a little bit. So he's got an equipment for his Cavalier, which threatenings do a lot of damage, so I'm probably going to have to Black Sun Zenith, or I can shatter the Infiltration Lens, or Into the Core, that plus something else. But he has another 2-drop, which is actually good news for me, which lets me Black Sun Zenith for even more value, and then potentially stabilize. So I think that's the obvious play, and that's what happens. And oh yeah, okay, so he had a big turn, emptied his hand almost. The Glider, Infiltration Lens, equip, and he has the Carapace for next turn. So I think the plan here is to just pass. Well, if I drew a land, then maybe I play Galvanizer and plan to shatter something, but or maybe get him by Into the Coring his equipment and eventually block this guy with a Galvanizer equipped with the plate. Those are the sort of different lines of play. I think I decide here, just let's stop the bleeding. He only has 1 card left in hand, and just Into the Core the Glider plus the power boosting equipment and slow him down. That's what I do. He plays another equipment. I still have the Shatter in hand. So here I'd play the... I want to gain some life off this Bleak Open. He is pretty aggressive. So I play the Galvanizer and just equip it with the plate. I can shatter this Infiltration Lens to stop him from... I redraw the Black Sun Zenith, which is nice protection. So here I actually have the option of using it on the Spin Engine, but I think at this point I just want to sort of go to the kill. I just play the Bleak Open Vampires, drain him for 4, gain 4 life. I can swing with the Galvanizer, and when I have the Heavy Arbalest back up, I can kill this with. I have the Shatter back up, and the Black Sun Zenith. So even if the might go for the throat, not the card, but you know, aggressive plan, switching gears to just trying to kill him before he draws something good, I have plenty of protection if he draws too much gas. Um, yeah, so here I just play the Bleakhoven Vampires and swing with the gavel. So slow. Okay. So here I'm just happy taking 4. I'm not in that much danger. Yeah, I draw. So again, I skipped ahead too much. I drew Embersmith off the top, which is even better. I don't have to waste any of my removal worrying about the spin engine, and I get it for free with my wall. And he's basically dead. Yeah. All right. It's worth noting I did make some sideboard adjustments also for game 2, but for game 2 I brought in the Flare Husk just for an early blocker. He had a lot of X1s, and it also goes well with the Embersmith. For game 3 I brought in the Crush. I actually sideboarded out my Galvanizer and something else. I cannot remember what. But I did bring in a Crush because he has so much equipment, and Crush with that much equipment has the ability to really crush him. Forgive the pun. Mid-combat. Alright, so this is a definitely reasonable hand. Embersmith is pretty sweet against him. None of my bombs or anything, but just a solid hand all around. He's got the Darksteel Axe. I just go ahead and play Embersmith. I don't see much value in holding it until he plays an X1, because he could just have removal from my Embersmith anyway. And if this holds back his X1s for a while, that's fine too. Because even if he finally finds a way of killing it, I'll have dealt some damage, and I'll have some bigger guys to help dwarf those X1s anyway. So I draw some acceleration. I just beat down for 2 and play out the spheres, hitting him for an extra 1. He plays a guy, which is slightly threatening with that Darksteel Axe. I could swing for 2. I don't really want to trade with the Glider in case he's just holding a bunch of X1s. Basically any creature is just going to be just as threatening with the Darksteel Axe, so I prefer to keep my Embersmith in case he does trade, which he would if he had X1s in his hand. So I just play out the Tumble Magnet to hold back the Glider for a turn or 2, and pass the turn. So here he's got a Darksteel Axe. I tap it down. Don't want to take 4 against such an aggressive deck if I can avoid it. I don't know if I waste any more Tumble Magnet counters for the time being, but I think it seemed worthwhile. So here I do see the value in gaining 4 life, so I just play out the Replica. It's possible this is a mistake, but it also could potentially hold back his Glider if he doesn't have an artifact. He may not want to trade it if he's short on playables. So I decide to test that out by not tapping down his Glider here. And if I take 4, it's not the end of the world. So I decide to let it through. Since I do want to have the option of drawing 2 cards if I fall behind, and that's what's going to happen because he plays a really threatening Precursor Golem, and so I now, unfortunately, I could have saved 4 life, but I need to dig for an answer for that, no question. So I find a semi-answer here in Into the Core, which takes care of 2 of them at least. But lucky me, I top deck a Shatter, which is even better, and lets me keep my Into the Core. And so that allows me to get back on the beatdown and just play. I don't get to gain 4 life, but I do get a threatening clock on him. So here I just tap it down, prevent some damage. Okay, so let's just go quickly over what happened there. I decide he plays this Ringleader out. I decide that he's probably not going to trade his Ringleader for my Bleakhoven Vampire. He wants to
judging how aggressive his deck was and how aggressive he's been playing, he wants to keep this and swing back at me. So before playing the Husk, of course, I swing with the vampires, and he does not block. Now I want to save this Tumble Magnet to tap down another guy that he might play in order to swing for the kill next turn. So we'll see what happens here. I don't tap down anything. I don't tap down this guy either because I can just into the court. And so he chooses just to swing with the ringleader. Oh wait, no, he does something first. He plays out creatures first. So now I have even a better idea of what's going to happen here. So I don't think he has anything else in his hand, and it's unlikely that anything in his hand is actually going to stop me from killing him, unless it's, I guess, a removal spell. But so basically my Into the Core is going to take care of his two guys and hopefully tap down his last one. So I don't tap down anything with the Tumble Magnet, let him swing. He only swings with the Ringleader, not with the Glider, which I'm going to just chump with the Germ. In case he does have something that threatens to not let me kill him, I'd rather not take the 4 damage this turn. So he doesn't play anything else. I Into the Core his 2 artifact creatures, and that's game because I just... Oh, and I drew a Cerebral Eruption just to make sure he didn't have anything. But and I hit a Spin Engine on it, so that sealed the game. But I don't think he had anything. I spoke to him after the game. He didn't mention him having anything in his hand, and it was a close one. But pulled it off, and see you in the replays for round 2. So here's round 2 against Zidian, who is a long-time player. Pretty sure he's quite good, and see how this goes. So I keep a land light hand here. Didn't watch his replays, but I mean, there's some pretty good cards here. Didn't realize I was on the... I didn't even check if I was on the draw. I sort of blindly thought he was going to take the play, which I should have known better. He was going to choose the draw, but can't be helped. I may have mulliganed had I thought it through a little bit more, but I did get my land. Play out the Propagator. Here I'm sort of deciding whether I play the Wall of Tanglecord or just... and kill his rats, or just make a mirror token before my mirror. He has a chance to kill my mirror, but I decide let's just kill his rats and swing. He plays the Blight Widow, which is much bigger. I decide just to hold back and make a Propagator token. So here, I'll slow it down a little bit. Here he plays a Darkstalactite, makes a big Blight Widow, which I'm not really wanting to chump with my Wall of Tanglecord here. I just sort of chump with a mirror and make another token. If I draw a land, I can kill it and swing, which is what I do. I'll skip through it. So it's back to him with nothing on the board. And nothing to play. So here I draw the Revoker, I name the Axe. I decide to make a token rather than swing with it. Oh, I'm going fast. Swing again, he drew nothing. He's 4 cards in hand, but apparently none of them do anything, and that is the game. So here's game 2. Knowing that he's infect, I brought in the Flare Husk again over the Propagator. I realized that there was a few more changes I should have made, which I made for game 3. I also in this game I replaced the Peace Strider, which gains me life, for the pumping 3/3, because gaining life doesn't do me anything. This guy, Draw Ripper, which I drew in my opening hand, which was a Malta 6. I had a 1-land hander to start with. So I draw some action. Seems to be Well, I can't really swing through that Blight Widow though, but making a board here. With a swamp I can get Bleakhoven action going. So here I play, I drew a replica, shrunk this guy, and played my replica out. Now he completely massacres me here with a Creeping Corrosion, clears my board, draws a card off his Wellspring, and that's pretty much game. I draw a Shaman to try to delay, but Asceticism is the writing on the wall here, and I'm not coming back, so I scoop. Seeing this wants me to change my deck quite a bit more, get rid of some of my artifacts for some colored guys. What I brought in, so I got rid of the pumping 3/3 and brought in the red 3/3 that has Metalcraft, and which gets haste +3/+3, just because it doesn't die to this, and otherwise fills a pretty similar role. And I also cut which I should have cut in the first game, the equipment that makes things indestructible. And for that I brought in the 4/4 for 6 mana that makes each player lose 4 life. I figure making me lose 4 life doesn't do much, and 6 mana 4/4, that's not an artifact, that drains him for 4 is not that bad. It's actually pretty good, especially when there's no drawback, which it normally has. So we'll see how game. Alright, so here's game 3. I keep this hand. It seems pretty reasonable. Got some non-artifact guys that don't get swept, and I have a sweeper of my own. In case he has a quicker start than me, which is likely with these cards. So a few turns go by with not much happening. This bear is not the kind of guy I want to see, but hopefully eventually I can sweep things up with that Zenith. Play out the replica. He swings for 2 and plays another Infector. Here I play the Resistor just to buy me some time. I didn't draw that swamp, and I don't really want to take too much Infect. The other option was just chumping with the replica and drawing 2. We'll see what he does. I'm going to slow it down. He has a Rager, which is going to draw him a card, but doesn't really threaten me all that much. Okay, so here I draw Tumble Magnet. I decide that I kind of just want to find that other swamp, so I'm just going to pass the turn, draw 2, maybe with a chump if he chooses to attack. But I don't know if he's going to attack into my Resistor. He plays Asceticism, which blanks my Tumble Magnet, unfortunately. So I draw 2, hoping to clear his board with the Zenith and open things up for a Horde Smelter to try to win the game before he reassembles an army. No swamps, found a few mountains though. So here I just drop the Shaman, hope to chump, which I am able to do. He doesn't play any more creatures after regenerating there. I feel like he would have, if he had a creature, he would have, rather than equipped, he would have held mana open to drop something and further develop his board, but he didn't, so then I just go ahead and Zenith the board, thinking there's a good chance he doesn't have any more creatures, which he doesn't have, but he has Decimator Web, which is a bit of a threat, not only for the poison, but 6 per turn is out of my library is just a ton in sealed. It's no longer the 1/10, which gives it its name, gives the card its name. So here I just drop the Horde Smelter and hope that that's going to clean up the Decimator Web. Going for the throat and trying to win as quickly as possible, but speaking of go for the throat, he has it for my dragon, which puts me in a bit of a jam here. I actually didn't realize how much of a clock this put me on. Maybe what I should have done was, well, actually, I guess the Bleakhoven Vampire isn't going to swing through the Leaden Mirror because of the Asceticism. So I guess this isn't the worst play, just dropping the Trigon and getting ready for the next turn to drop the Bleakhoven and drain him for 4. But I definitely need some help, which I find in Cerebral Eruption. So yeah. So let's try to slow down what just happened there. I played the Bleakhoven. I drew Cerebral Eruption. Now I made a pretty bad mistake here because I didn't realize how fast that clock was, and I had to go for the win on the last turn. And so instead of playing Pierce Strider and equipping the Heavy Arbalist, thinking I can win next turn off a Cerebral Eruption if it hits, because like this gets tapped down and I can swing through as long as the Cerebral Eruption hits for 1, because I can Heavy Arbalist his. Well, actually no, this guy doesn't even do any. It does infect him, which so I shouldn't have even equipped to this guy. But what I should have done instead of equipping anyone was just go for the win last turn, because I'm dead to Decimator Web, and I should have hoped for like a 6 mana guy. See, like this drained him for 3, so bring him to 10. So if I get a 6 mana anything, I win with Cerebral Eruption, which is not likely, but it's more likely than just letting him tap Decimator Web twice and finishing off my library. So that's I end up losing to being decked, and hopefully I have a better fate in the next round. Right, here we are in round 3. You can see I kept I'm gonna not skip over what I keep. Kept a Landlight hand on the play again, but man, these cards are hard to pass up. And Wall of Tanglecord can potentially slow things down. Okay, so here he's got the turn 2 Embersmith. Hopefully I get the land for the turn 3 Shaman to answer perfectly, and I do. All right. He's got an Etched Champion. I'm perfectly happy offering the trade here. You gotta assume he's not going to, most cases. He does, but that's not the worst. I mean, I do have a lot of artifact removal, but not the most threatening of artifacts anyway. There's a Forger. I finally find the 4th land here, and that's gonna mean a Peace Strider. He's got an artifact of his own. I'm not throwing away any of my removal here. I'm content just waiting for my Horde Smelter. There's a Molder Beast, which is a bit more threatening, but my Peace Strider does trade with it. So yeah, here I'm just dropping the Galvanizer, holding the removal. I'd like that 6th land for the Smelter Dragon, but yeah, he's not going to attack into the Peace Strider and has no plays. So I finally get number 6, get to play my Dragon and pass. See what he has to answer. Oh, that's going to let him swing through with the Molder Beast. I'm going to double block here, though. Not much in red that's going to answer a Horde Smelter Dragon, other than something he would have played if he had, like, what's it called? Slag? Turn to Slag? Yeah, that's it. Turn to Slag. Not much else. So I'm happy just double blocking, making sure there's no race, or that I'm heading in the race if there is one. And see, dare him to answer the Horde Smelter Dragon. Now I could play Spread the Sickness, Cerebral Eruption, but I think as I learned in the first round, let's make sure, like if I Cerebral Eruption, that's sort of maybe blanking my Into the Core. It's not a good chance it's going to be doing anything, so better off saving Cerebral Eruption in case he swarms me somehow. Or there's the Marauder, which I think that is potentially worth spreading the sickness. I don't want him to start gaining life and catching up in the race that way. So here I'm just going to into the core his artifacts, which makes it so that he has to kill my artifact to gain 5 life if I don't choose to spread the sickness next turn, which is pretty likely I will, unless I draw that. I went through that pretty quickly, but I drew the Darksteel Plate, so I'd much rather just put it on my Horde Smelted Dragon and completely blank any plans of removal that he may have. I guess into the core plus removal would do it, because it could exile my plate. But that seems pretty unlikely. So I'm just going to block. He's got a Molder Beast. I spread the sickness to make sure he's not gaining any life next turn, and not dealing me 20 in one turn. And not dealing with this guy with any card off the top that I can think of. So, yeah, that's game 1. So here's game 2. I'll keep a reasonable hand. Any hand with Black Sun Zenith and some lands is, even with the second swamp, which I draw here, it's got to be reasonable. Definitely seen the fatties, so I probably want to sort of wait for those before I use my Zenith. I play out the Propagator here, because he seemed to have missed the land drop. And also that'll hold the fort maybe until the Zenith gets online. Yeah, okay, so then make some Propagators. I see he's still missing land drops, so I sort of play the Pierce Strider to put the pressure. Unfortunately, I get caught by an Arc Trail, so it seems I should have maybe held one of those, made one more Propagator token. I can't possibly play around Arc Trail there. There's no way I can see him. In fact, I'm pretty surprised he didn't play it last turn, because obviously it should have been the mountain off the top, right? Oh, right, it was end of turn I made a token. That makes more sense. Anyway, there's no way of really playing around that Arc Trail, I don't think, that I could have been expected to use, so he finds some more answers to my pressure as he draws lands. And so I'm left with a pretty empty hand here, except for the Black Sun Zenith. But that does, I think it's reasonable to expect that he has at least 1 or 2 fatties, because he hadn't done much since. So I don't really want to play the Black Sun Zenith yet. Now I'm going to make a large error here. So I draw the Trigon Interruption, of Infestation, I mean. And I decide, okay, now, even though I held the Fierce Suns last turn, that was more of an accident, I think. But I play out both, and this is a mistake, because it does not play around this card into the core. So I see he was originally, now watch this. So he decides to just go into the core. I think he thought he was going to pump his guy twice, but that's besides the point. He decided to play in, because I have 2 artifacts, that he decides to play into the core instead of something that costs more mana. And that's bad news. So I make a token in response. I chump the Carapace Forger. I maybe should have chumped the Beast so I can play Shaman and threaten to block the Molder Beast. Instead, what I do is I play the Black Sun Zenith, which I'm forced to do, because even though I know he has another fatty in hand, I can't really go down to 1 life, I don't think, or 0 life if he somehow has an artifact that he can sack for himself. So even though I'm reasonably sure he has a fatty in hand, I don't think that it improves my chances of winning if he has, if I'm down to 1 life with no gas, especially with most likely access to some burn. I know he has at least an Embersmith in there somewhere, and yeah, so I didn't want to go down to 1. On the off chance he doesn't have another fatty, but you'll see, we knew he had one because he thought about playing it last turn, and it's Steel Hellkite. I hope to top deck something, but don't, and that's the game. Because I played out the useless 2-mana artifact. I may have been otherwise able to. He would have most likely played that Hellkite last turn, and I would have been able to sweep the board and maybe draw something. Anyway, so there's a mistake. So game 3, I'm going to try to make sure I don't skip through the opener here. There we go. There's the opener. This is an okay hand. Ogre Resistor is nice on turn 3. The Sphere of Suns helps me accelerate and fix the mana, but I'm going to want another land at some point. So I draw Cerebral Eruption, which is okay against him. Not terrific because it's not going to likely sweep his board every time, but he does have a lot of high casting cost stuff in his deck. So it could also potentially be just a huge blowout. Play the Sphere of the Suns. He plays a replica. I'm going to play my Resistor. I'm not going to want to trade here because of the Cerebral Eruption in my hand. Now, hope to draw land. Don't play out the Pierce Strider, and then potentially Cerebral Eruption this turn, although it's only killing one guy. And it also would take the last token, the last counter off my Sphere of the Suns, which I'm not overly anxious to do. So what I should play here is Tumble Magnet. Let's see what I draw first, actually. But what I should draw Spread the Sickness, which is going to be nice if he plays something bigger, but which he has plenty of. But what I should play is Tumble Magnet, and that way if he doesn't play anything, I just tap down the replica, and that way I can hold my Eruption for multiple creatures if I like that, and not use my last counter on the Sphere of the Suns. What I play is Mirror Propagator, which is not smart to play. I realized right after I played it I should have just played the Tumble Magnet, which allows me to start punching through this replica without needing to play the Eruption. He plays a big fatty, but he makes a large mistake of attacking with a replica. Now I guess if I trade, then he gains 10 life, but I'm obviously not going to do that, especially if I have removal. You figure he should at least be waiting to see if I have removal for his Marauder, because he just gets blown out by removal here, and if I draw the land, I have it, which I do, and even if I don't, I can just Tumble Magnet and swing for half his life, which is still bad for him. But I found the land, and this is really bad for him. And now, basically, the Cerebral Eruption is eventually going to get him, most likely. We'll see what happens. He now obviously has to hold the replica back. This does nothing. And Arc Trail is not going to cut it there. And so, as long as I don't whiff on Cerebral Eruption, it's over right now. And I figure that I might as well do that. Unless I draw something else that auto-wins. That's nice backup if the game goes longer. But even if he has like a Shatter from my Strider, or if I whiff with the Eruption, I think I might as well just go for the win now, in case he has some ridiculous bomb that changes things. So I go for it, and I hit, and that's that. So we'll see. Hopefully I can win the finals as well. Alright, so here's the final round for 5 extra packs. Difference between 3 and 8. If I can get the win. I keep a pretty sketchy hand, but it has a lot of lands, has a way of drawing some more cards. Don't like mulliganing, so I don't. And draw another land. And another one. So here I'm playing the replica. I might need to dig. This is no immediate threat, although with this much mana he could potentially drop 2 artifacts in the next turn. I decide... Oh, what do I decide? I decide, oh, another land. I could potentially just try to dig, but I played another guy. Got Trigon of Corruption, which isn't, at least it's not a lot of pressure. I draw Spread the Sickness, which can eventually deal with this Serpent, but it's going to be digging time soon. Now. And I find a bit of gas, not the most exciting gas, so here I'm just playing out the vampires. The Embersmith just dies to Trigon. Might as well hold in case it's relevant, or I can deal with that Trigon. So finishes off my mirror.
And now he plays out a massive Stratoskype. I like to let it through because I'm gonna, first of all, I can spread the sickness of this guy next turn, and hopefully I can keep this guy around for afterwards. But I don't have much. I have so many lands in my hand. The only way I'm clawing my way back is by keeping cards, and I make a pretty bad mistake here. For no reason, I play a swamp, and this is really awful because that now makes the Palladium Mirror lethal, even if he doesn't draw a swamp. Which means, so I can spread the sickness on this guy, but then I have to block the Palladium Mirror with this vampire, so I've essentially thrown away my vampires. Otherwise, I'd just go down to 1 rather than lose a precious card. So I spread the sickness. I play the Embersmith, so at least he, it gives me a chance to draw something relevant. Otherwise, he Trigon's Corruption my Embersmith. He still has to equip the Palladium Mirror and swings and leaves him less mana for like a removal spell to just seal the game. Now I do top deck the Into the Core, which is a good start. I choose the Trigon and the Scythe here, I think, because leaving the Trigon around is going to make it a lot harder to claw back into the game, because a lot of my spells will just eventually become blanked by the Trigon. I think I like my chances a lot better if I get rid of the Trigon and the Stratoskythe and hope to draw something that just dwarfs the Palladium Mirror. So that's what I do. He plays out Copper Mirror, and I find a Horde Smelter Dragon, which could potentially turn the game around if he doesn't have removal, and that is a pretty big if, since he has prime removal in Corrupted Conscience. At least I get to see the Corrupted Conscience. Shatter doesn't help, and we're on to game 2. For the sideboard, I sideboarded in some white. Definitely could use a little extra artifact removal. He certainly has some juicy targets. There was the option of the 1-for-1 red, which deals with the equipment or the Trigon, but I decided on white because it gives me Revoke Existence, which can also answer a control magic. So I splashed the white off the 2-mana artifact and 2 plains, cutting a mountain and a swamp. And I cut, what did I cut? I cut the Mirror Lord and the Revoker. I felt like it was just going to be too fragile. He does turn off the equipment and the Trigon though, so maybe that was the wrong choice. So here, I keep, I mulligan to 6, and I keep a hand with all mountains, and, well, at least the cards in it are playable off mountains, and decent cards. And Cerebral Eruption adds to that. So he comes out pretty quick with a, well, not that quick, apparently. He's a Gust Skimmer. I'm not too worried about that with the Cerebral Eruption in hand. And he plays another one, which means probably good value for the Cerebral Eruption. I decided not to Cerebral Eruption yet. I feel like I can race here and extract a little extra value, although given that he's stuck on lands, he doesn't have any other small, like, mini drops, winnies, I should say. So even if he does play another creature, there's no guarantee Eruption gets it. So it's possible I should just stop the bleeding there. I can play the Horde Smelter the next turn either way. He goes ahead and plays out Trigon of Corruption. Now, there's a bunch of decisions here. I think at this point, maybe the best, he's stuck on 4 mana, maybe the best is just go for Horde Smelter Dragon now to try to end the game in case he has the control magic and he's looking for the island. He has 3 colors, like chances of finding an island off the top are probably not that good. I don't know how his colors are split exactly, because I've seen I think I saw at least 2 of each last game. So it's probably a pretty even split. So, and the other choice is the three-roller option now, and just clean the board, or even into the core of the Trigon and the Gus Skimmer. So I like to play the Horde Smelter. I think that just sort of demands removal or the game is over, which he finds. He finds the land. Not for Corrupted Conscience, at least, but just in this scenario, almost as good. Just wants to get rid of that Horde Smelter Dragon. I guess Corrupted Conscience would have been way worse. Who am I kidding? But still bad. So he gets to take me down to 6. So there I decide, okay, I have Cerebral Eruption, and even if I whiff, I have Into the Core as backup. Although that leaves Into the Core with no targets now. It's possible that maybe the better play is to just have Into the Core, a Gus Skimmer, and a Trigon Corruption to prevent him from shrinking my guy, which gives me an actual two-turn clock, especially since I can make it indestructible. But at least the pressure's gone. He plays the 3/5, who can't threaten to attack yet, but he's putting a stop to my blocker. So my clock is gone, and he can start whittling down my thing. So I draw land here. I played up my resistor, kind of hoping his next drop is an artifact, so I can Into the Core. So again, I get Into the Core stuck in my hand. Maybe the lesson is, given the choice between two sweepers or two for ones, use the one that's less situational, or more situational first. Although I still thought there was a reasonable chance of seeing another, or good chance of seeing another artifact to take along with the Trigon. So I find the he's shrinking my guy. I find the Contagion class to solve the Spire Serpent, so at least clear the way and prevent like a double artifact swing for 5. Although that seemed unlikely. I feel like I would have seen some of those artifacts. And so I got rid of the Spire Serpent, and he finds off the top a Invisimancer, which would have been maybe a better target for this Contagion class, but I don't think I could ever think of, or I would ever play that last turn differently. Not around an X1. But that does give me a pretty good clock. I need to find gas or a way of dealing with this, because with the Trigon, this guy's not long for this world. I get in for the 2, since he's going to shrink, and I find nothing. And he finds another pretty awkward double mana aggressive guy, which I don't know what's like. I mean, he's beating me pretty handily. So here it is. It's Kemba's Skyguard, and I guess it's doing the trick here. But you don't really expect to see these in 3-color decks. They're not the swingiest of cards, and they're not all that good late. I mean, they're okay late. They have evasion, but usually you could do better. And I mean, I think I'm just a little bit unlucky that he hit his mana. Although he did get plenty of time, and I drew plenty of land here. So I definitely had other options. Like I could have held the Cerebral Eruption, which would have been fine, and Into the Cord, the Trigon, and one of the Gus Skimmers, in which case I probably would have won this race, especially drawing the Strider off the top. I would have had a bit more damage pushed through. So I partially could have played differently, and maybe should have played differently, but also got a little unlucky here. With him hitting all 3 colors in multiples. And also me drawing quite a bit of land in both games. Oh, I started with a lot of land. Game 1. I could have mulliganed that one. Could have, should have, would have. I'll see you next time.